Welcome to Beyond Travel. Welcome to this podcast again. My name is Melissa and I will be your host today. If this is your first time listening, I want to welcome you and I want to tell you that I appreciate a lot that you have chosen to actually hear this podcast and be part of this community. So, I want to actually tell you that we have changed our name. So, our podcast was called Beyond Tourism. However, we decided that it feels better to have a name as Beyond Travel because if you don't know, the topic of this podcast is everything related to traveling, all aspects of traveling, the positive parts and also the negative parts. So we decided to change it to Beyond Travel. So welcome again. Today we're actually going to talk about why do we travel. I know it might seem like a very easy question or maybe not that interesting to talk about, but I think it can be a very important topic to talk about. So that's why I've decided to just kind of share this space with you guys and yeah, have a conversation about this topic. So the main idea is now to talk about how, like, why did I decided to travel, and also ask each one of you, like, what was the reason for you to start traveling? What was the reason for you to start traveling? So let me just tell you a little bit about me. I've always loved traveling, and it's always been a passion. And I'm pretty sure that if you're listening as well, is because you are very, like, you are travel passionate the same way that I am. But I think not everything was like a positive. Like, traveling is something great, but I think it can also bring some negative things in our lives. So let me just start by telling you that since, like, I'm 27 years old, and when I was younger, I used to travel every single year. I think like twice or like three times per year, which might seem a lot to certain people, but to other people it might seem like, oh, that's kind of nothing. So it depends actually, yeah, about your own opinion about that. So I used to travel a lot when I was younger, and I still travel a lot, but I think I travel now differently. So when I was younger, I went to different areas. In the beginning, it was more about traveling related to family matters. Visiting the family or getting to know a destination with your family. After that, I was just growing up and having, relationship and heart issues. So after I came from all those trips with my family, time passed by and you start going on like vacation trips with your friends, or if you have a boyfriend or if you have a new relationship. So I did that. I actually went on a trip. It's a crazy trip. I think I'm gonna do a podcast about that. Love and the things you do for love, right? So I started like traveling for different reasons when I was younger. In this case, nowadays that I'm older, I know that traveling, sometimes certain people, like, me as well, we use it as an excuse to run away from something, right? So let's go a little bit more deeper into that thought. So I know, like, not all of us have a great life. Some of us do, and we should appreciate every single things that we have in life, even if you have a tough life or not. And I think when we're younger, yeah, we feel sometimes like our emotions are like stronger, or like we think things are like tougher than the reality. And I think nowadays, reflecting on who I was when I was a younger person, I noticed that I was also traveling whenever I had like an issue, like a problem. I'm not saying that I had a tough life or that I had like this, like really tough problems, hard, like really hardcore or something. No, definitely it wasn't like that. I had like a really great life, great parents, great opportunities, but still, it's never perfect, right? So I think I started like also run away from my reality, by going to experience, by going to these different destinations to experience certain things, different things, right? Like outside of my bubble. And yeah, some things were positive and some things were negative, because I think it doesn't matter how long you travel, it doesn't matter how many times you travel in a year. If you don't resolve your problems, or if you don't make peace with your reality, who you are, or what you're thinking, it will always follow you. It will definitely, it will impact also your behavior, the way your relationship with people in general. So traveling is not always that great. If it's not Traveling is not always great if this is like what you're choosing to do, running away from your reality. So I want to ask you now, like, close your eyes and just take a deep breath and just imagine yourself, like all those times that you took a trip, you book it, you went on the trip, maybe like solo or with your friends or your family. Like, ask yourself, why did you actually went on that trip? Why do you travel? Are you traveling for the right reasons? Are you traveling for those great experiences that you want to have in life? Or are you traveling because there is something that is lacking on your current reality that you feel that can be, I don't know, replaced by these feelings, new emotions? I don't think there's always, I mean, I think that if you're going through a breakup, for example, and you take a trip, I'm not saying that that is a bad thing to do because you're traveling out of like, you're sad, or your, I don't know, lack of love or something. I'm not saying that, because I also believe in like the healing properties of a trip, getting to know new people, getting out of the bubble and stuff like that. But I do believe that sometimes you have to ask yourself, why am I traveling? Why do I want to go on that trip? Is it because maybe I want to show my friends that I have the money to go on a trip? Maybe I want to show my parents, I don't know, that I deserve this and I was able to make it so far. Or maybe it's about like I want to show myself that I deserve this luxurious trip, or anything like that, right? if if you feel good, if you feel happy, I think feelings are very difficult to talk about, because I feel like now that we are adults, we actually never knew how to put in words what we feel. Literally like 1 or 2 weeks ago, I realized that there is this whole wheel, that like the wheel of emotions, I think it's called, I'm not sure. um and you can point out like, oh, this is how I'm feeling, oh, if I'm feeling happy or if I'm feeling excited and this and this. And I think it's so important to actually know all the words that exist to explain how you're feeling, because I feel like sometimes we don't know what we're feeling, but we are just choosing a word. So yeah, ask yourself like, why do I actually travel? Is it because I'm happy to go on this trip with my family? I'm happy because I've never been on a girls trip with my girls, Um but also think about, do I have to go on this trip alone? I think being a solo traveler or traveling with friends or family, it should be something that you decide to do. It should be something that you make. It doesn't have to be a challenge. It doesn't have to be something that someone else make you do because you think, um this is the thing. I think, again, I think Instagram and all these platforms are great in a certain way because they inspire us, and they give us a lot of different ideas and motivation to do stuff and to achieve things in life. But I also don't want you to think that, for example, solo traveling or traveling with your partner is as great as can be seen in TikTok or in Instagram or whatever other platform you're using. So always think about that. Always think about, why am I traveling and who do I want to go on this trip with? Do I want to go on this trip with my partner, with my family, with my friends? Or do I want to go alone? So let me tell you a little bit about how I've changed. I've changed the way I've traveled. Of course, I also change the way I am as a person. We all do. Change is something that we can't stop. It just happens. So yeah, I used to travel every year, 2 to 3 times per year, and then I think I like sat down one day and I was just thinking like, do I like traveling? Why am I doing this? And all of these things. And yes, of course, I love traveling. I'm still traveling. But nowadays, I really make sure I'm traveling for the right reasons. And also, I'm traveling with the people I love. I love helping people to actually think before like making a big like decision. So nowadays I also, like, I've never been a person that travels like a whole month. It's always been like a week, 2 weeks, a couple of days. But I used to have this thought that if you're going to spend money on a trip, it has to be at least 2 3 weeks or even a month. I think it's because maybe some of us, we we lack some financial support in a way. So we think like, oh, if I'm going, then I'm gonna spend this money, I'm gonna stay as long as I can, because then maybe I won't be able to go. Which sometimes, yeah, it is true for some people, but it might not also be true, because if you love it, I think you're gonna go again. And nowadays, I don't think like that. Nowadays, for me, it's like, let me invest this money in experience, in just getting to know other people, cultures, just architecture, nature. And I go sometimes even for 3 to 4 days. Of course, I mean, I also live in Europe, in the Netherlands, so traveling to Europe, it's also a bit cheaper than if you're thinking, I don't know, traveling from Australia to Canada, for example. However, I also do a lot of international trips, long distance trips. I usually go every year, or once a year or twice a year, to my home country, to Aruba, which is a Caribbean, from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands. So it is an investment. But sometimes you need to think about, if this trip is also an investment for your soul. It's not always about, I don't have the money, or it's not always about, I've been there already, why am I gonna go again? I think it's also about listening to, what do you want? And I think there are so many things to choose now, so many options, destinations, activities, ideas, that we don't know what to choose, and we end up choosing what other people think we should choose. So I've traveled a lot so far, or that's what I think, and I've changed the way I travel. I don't like to travel um 3 4 4 times a year. No, I like to travel like 1 or 2 times a year, if it's possible. but also I am creating a business that will give me some freedom, time to get to know other people and experiences. But I don't want to be a nomad. I don't want to be someone that travels every single, like 3 to 4 times a year. I don't think that's sustainable as well. Honestly, nowadays, I actually think about, if I take this decision, for example, if I don't know, if I book this accommodation, what am I actually supporting? Am I supporting a, I don't know, a big chain? For example, if I go to a restaurant, is this like a big chain? Am I okay with this? I'm not saying that every single question I am, like every single decision I'm going to question, like what am I doing? I'm not saying that, but it's about, before you click book now or pay now, it's about knowing, okay, what is actually my trip about? What am I doing? Am I going for, like, I don't care type of all inclusive trip, or am I going for, let me do like a volunteering thing, or am I doing a, I don't know, let me support some things like small businesses, or I want to connect with locals, or I don't know. I think you get what I mean. It's kind of about like literally deciding before you start booking. But we're gonna have more podcasts, more episodes about this type of topics. I think is very important, and I think I can help you and everyone who's listening right now to Beyond Travel. I think I have a lot of things to share that maybe could help you or help someone that will be interested in knowing a little bit more about this. With that, I do want to say that if you know someone that will love to hear about these topics, um, and loves traveling or something, just share this podcast to that special person. I'm pretty sure I will appreciate it a lot, but also that person, I think, that person will be thinking that, oh, this person really thinks about me. So I think that's always so nice. So the question is actually nowadays, why do I travel? If you know already, why do you travel? I would love to read like in the comments, why do you travel? If it's something positive, or if it's something negative, or what's actually your opinion about this whole episode of this podcast. So why do I travel? I travel honestly. In the beginning, it was about showing my parents the world. It was about showing people that anyone can do it, anyone can travel. I was a student and I was traveling a lot. Nowadays as well, like I just graduated, as I mentioned in my first podcast. I mean, a few months ago, of course, but I wanted to show people like, hey, you don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be someone rich. You don't have to have a 9 to 5 job every single time. Like all those limits and blockages and obstacles. I think you can even travel. Like, I know it sounds a cliche, but you can travel in your own city, in your own country. Traveling is not about who is going to, the most internet, like who's taking the most international trips. It's not about that. It's also not about like how many countries have you visited. Like, I think when people ask me about like, you travel a lot, they tell me, and I'm always like, yeah, I do travel a lot. And sometimes they ask me, how many countries have you visited, as if that's an indication of the success that I have in my life. They don't even know if I'm broke every single time I travel. But yeah, that's gonna be another podcast as well. But yeah, I travel. I used to travel to show my parents the world. I used to travel for to show people that anyone can travel and do it. Nowadays, I travel to actually show people that things, in some way, things have to change. But also, I travel nowadays to feel inspired and appreciate our world. I went to Costa Rica and I went to Morocco, and those were actually two of the amazing countries that I've visited that actually made a very, very big impact in my life. I loved how Costa Rica changed my perspective about nature. I've always loved nature, but I think Costa Rica was one of those countries that, like, you just feel immersed and you feel like, wow, I want to move here. And why? Like, if you ask yourself, why do I want to move here? It's because this country brings something that you don't feel in your current country or in current life. And you can't do that. You can't run away from your reality expecting that living in Costa Rica, for example, is going to be the best decision ever. Of course, I mean, it will be because Costa Rica is amazing and I also want to go live there someday, maybe. But what I'm saying is that before you move out to Costa Rica or to any country that you have felt like, wow, amazing, right? Um, or that you have felt like you want to go live there, um, you have to make peace with your current reality. You have to make peace with being happy right now, this present moment. Because if you don't do that, then you will be going to Costa Rica or to this whatever country, and then if something happens, you will be running away again, and so on and on and on. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to say that traveling is amazing and I love it. And nowadays I have my own reasons why traveling is something that everyone needs to do. Whatever that means to you, right? Like in your own city or going to another state or whatever it is. So if you are actually loving this podcast, I do want to mention that you can also follow my travel journey. If you want to feel like a little bit more connected to me, you can follow me on my personal account, which is Arulatina Travels on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. But if you also love everything related to nature, culture, adventure, and wellness, as I mentioned before, I have my own baby, my own small business. It's a ecotourism related business. So you can follow me also on Bigger Than Us Travels on Instagram and Facebook as well, or you can visit the website. Um, and I want to actually leave you with like the lesson of the day. I love to teach people things, and I think it's very important to actually take something yeah, useful or something that could help you in some way. So I think the lesson of the day is that you should make sure that you're happy, you're content with your current reality before you think that your happiness can be somewhere else. And also ask yourself, why do you do certain things? In this case, why do you travel? Why did you choose that destination or accommodation, or why am I going to this with this person? So ask these why questions and let me know how you feel. You can comment something here or just share your thoughts on Instagram or Facebook or whichever platform you decide to continue the journey with me. So I do want to say that I am uploading a podcast every single Sunday. Of course, if if the weather, if my mood, if everything, goes right, then I will be here. I will be your knowledgeable travel friend every single Sunday, sharing a little bit more about traveling and different aspects that go beyond of the traditional way that we are um, yeah, the traditional way of traveling. So I want to say thank you for listening to this podcast, Beyond Travel. And if you're liking what you're hearing, of course, make sure to rate us, to follow our podcast, or answer like our questions below. And of course, also turn on the notifications for new episodes. And I want to just wish you have a great morning, evening, or afternoon, and see you in our next episode.